time and encouragement, and with whatever funding I can find. I ensure that annually I allocate a portion of the CDF funding to sports, and I know, Mr. Speaker, that there are many sports facilities still to be improved, such as the field in Tavern, the basketball, netball court in Augusttown, the football field in Jarrett Lane, and I will continue to work on these in the years ahead. Switching now to water, Mr. Speaker. Unfortunately, water woes are common in the constituency, despite our being the home of the Mona Reservoir. It is particularly painful in those communities with regulated water. So despite the schedule that NWC gives, inevitably, there are problems with people not having water. I've been working with the entity, NWC, to regularize water supply in several communities. We've had some success in communities such as Goldsmith Villa and Backbush in getting metered water, Mr. Speaker, to parts of the community. It's a slower process than I would like because the infrastructure takes time to put in, but I am encouraged because the residents ask for it and they do pay their water bill. They put a value on that water bill with their name on it and their address, and so they do take action to make the payment. I'm happy to share that water infrastructure were laid recently in Goldsmith Villa. Testing has been going on. There's still a lot of work. It seems to be done to make it so that the residents are getting water through the meters into their homes. Mr. Speaker, regarding the vexed issue of access to electricity, I'm proud of my record of getting communities regularized, and I fully support the prepaid option as a way for persons to remain on top of their electric bills. Where possible, I've helped with house wiring so that persons can access safe electricity. And I want to say to JPS that there are several communities that are badly in need of being regularized. They're calling me, and I will be speaking to the new head minister to see how quickly we can get this going. On the issue of street lights, Mr. Speaker, there are many street lights in St. Andrew Eastern for which we're happy. However, many are too spaced out and the illumination is inadequate in several communities. One such area that needs more lighting is Old Hope Road between Waterfalls and Papine, and this will be on my list as well in the meeting that I plan for with JPS. Yep. So in terms of community Wi-Fi, Mr. Speaker, so far, 3 communities in St. Andrew Eastern have Wi-Fi with more communities on the way. Thank you, Minister. On September 2nd, we're going to turn the Wi-Fi on in Jarrett Lane. Yes. And for those of you who know the political history of St. Andrew Eastern, by emphasizing that this is happening in Jarrett Lane under this government, you will know that we are witnessing a sea change in our politics in St. Andrew Eastern, because this Member of Parliament does not play politics with communities or people's lives. If there are benefits to be had, I ensure all communities benefit, regardless of their political leaning. In the same community of Jarrett Lane, a multi-purpose court, bathroom. In the same community of Jarrett Lane, a multi-purpose court, bathroom facilities, and a football field have undergone work to bring them to a better state. And I want to thank Minister Grage for the work of SDF to bring the netball/basketball court up to standard. And by the way, I am a big supporter of the annual sports competition in Jarrett Lane. Mr. Speaker, even as I itemize all the good work that has been done over the years and give thanks for the good work, there's still more to be done. The people of Fallon are in desperate need of lights on the poles that were installed several years ago. They also need a safe walking pathway to their homes, again, in terms of the light that's on my list to speak with JPS about. Ellison Flats is in need of a kiddie playground on the grounds of the community center. Tavern is in need of more secure fencing around their multi-purpose field and a resurfacing of the netball court. I am proud, Mr. Speaker, of the work I've been able to do to refurbish, repair community centers, and the communities welcome these. There have been many opportunities in which our young people have used these community centers for summer classes and training sessions, and we will expand on these in the years ahead. Mr. Speaker, zinc fence removal finds resonance across my constituency. Persons want zinc fences removed and replaced with block and steel. This adds pride to residents and makes the community look and feel like it ought to. I will continue to take down zinc fences and replace them with block and steel. On the issue of crime, Mr. Speaker, unfortunately, we're not immune to persons preying on our students. There are many hundreds of students living in St. Andrew Eastern, and as they traverse the streets, unfortunately, sometimes, they are robbed. We're getting more cameras installed that has allowed the police to identify persons much faster, but there's still work to be done, especially in installing cameras at major intersections in order to help with detecting who the perpetrators are in many of these instances. Many of the communities form WhatsApp group that I am in, and I'm amazed at the power of these WhatsApp groups. Residents watch out for each other for unusual movements, and because the police from Matilda's Corner are in these WhatsApp groups, the response is excellent when the residents bring to the fore an issue. Their vigilance has averted many situations, so I want to publicly thank the men and women at the Matilda's Corner police station for your vigilance. Many communities are calling for security cameras, and I have committed to helping to make this happen. Another activity that I'm immensely proud of is the parks and green spaces across many of my communities. Hermitage, Goldsmith Villa, Augusttown, Backbush. The benefits are immense. People meet in these spaces in an environment that calls for cordiality and community spirit, and these are amenities that I plan to bring to all of my communities, and I've begun to work with them, especially through some recent tree planting activities. Mr. Speaker, there's always something happening in my constituency, something good happening, from church events, school events, and other events put on by various groups, persons in their own private capacity, and I make an effort to attend as many as I can and to be visible across the length and breadth of the constituency. Beyond being present, and even despite the heavy workload of the Ministry of Education and Youth, I work on responding to calls from my constituents about the various issues, and many times I personally follow up to ensure that the situation is taken care of. I'm committed, and while I'm not saying that I answer every single call, it is safe to say that my commitment is very evident in the constituency of St. Andrew Eastern. Mr. Speaker, Before my half an hour ends, I want to address the vexed issues of multifamily buildings in St. Andrew Eastern. St. Andrew Eastern is a desirable location in which to live. It has major shopping areas in Ligonier, and even though Ligonier is in another constituency, but it's used, and Papine, it hosts our major universities, UWI and UTech, the Mona Reservoir, historical places such as the Great House and the Aqueduct, the beautiful Hope Gardens and the zoo form a part of the attractiveness of St. Andrew Eastern. I say all of that to boast a little bit about St. Andrew Eastern, but more importantly, to point to the change in the built environment that the desirability of St. Andrew Eastern has elicited. There are many multifamily buildings in St. Andrew Eastern. On Charlemont Avenue, a road that is approximately like less than a mile, there are many buildings with 3 or more full floors. Ottawa, Wellington, and you can drive across the constituency and you will see these. These are beautiful buildings, but the structure, the environment of several communities are changing. Imagine, Mr. Speaker, that not so long ago there were only single-family homes or simple 2-story townhouses, and you can see how the communities have changed quickly. And hence the tug-of-war between needing housing development on the one hand and the desire of many residents to continue enjoying the community in which they've been living for 30 or 40 years. On many occasions, Mr. Speaker, I, as MP, I am in the middle, trying to stand for the desires of the constituents, while at the same time acutely aware of the need for housing stock, given the economic growth Jamaica is experiencing under this government. Madam Speaker, there are many government entities involved in the process, and we know them. It's NEPA, it's the municipalities, it's NWC, NWA, private sector utility companies. I have attended many, many community meetings. And my ask of government entities is simple. In your approval processes, consider the impact of all of this on existing residents and be vigilant in approval processes. Err on the side of the residents, because for the life of the construction, the residents have to bear the hazards of traffic as construction trucks run up and down their streets. The residents have to bear the construction drilling at odd hours. And so when the residents ask for contractors to end at 5 p.m. or 6 p.m. in the afternoons and not start until 8 a.m. or 9 a.m., as entities of government charged with monitoring these constructions on behalf of the government and people of Jamaica, you have an obligation to monitor in the interest of those impacted. To the contractors, my ask of you is that you treat the space in which you're building and the people who do not have a choice but to continue living next door to the construction, treat it with utmost respect. Jamaica belongs to all of us. Honor the commitments you make to the communities to only do construction within a certain time, to not drop cement on the roads, to not tie up traffic with big trucks, to begin and end construction at the times agreed. Yes, we know you want to finish the project, but people have to get to sleep, to wake up for work or school the next day. Mr. Speaker, much has been accomplished on behalf of the people of St. Andrew Eastern. I could say lots more about the skills training, the many persons who now have a job under this government, the Restorative Justice Center in Augustown, the very decent housing that is sprouting up in communities once considered inner city communities. But there are 4 communities still requiring infrastructure work. These are Highlight View, Landlease, Fallin, and Mona Common. Serious work needs to be done to get those communities to a place. And Mr. Speaker, as I close, at the constituency debate last year, I talked about a particular building in Backbush being used for housing that should not be given the state of the building, and promised to work on getting proper housing. Madam Speaker, no sooner had I talked about in the Parliament than the very next day it was splashed, in the media all over, and there are pictures showing the state of the building. Mr. Speaker, I am happy to say that recently I showed the residents a mock-up of the design that will go to procurement shortly. This is the architect's, on the next slide, rendition of what the building will look like. It is in the final design stages to go to tender. My very ambitious goal is to cut the ribbon on this in the not too distant future. Mr. Speaker, whilst we've covered a lot of ground, the work continues because we have to load the third term. Thank you.
Speaker, I'd like to thank the member from Eastern St. Andrew for a wonderful presentation in this constituency debate. We will now ask the member from Central Manchester, Member Crawford, to make her presentation at this time.
Member Crawford.
Mr. Speaker, with a sense of pride and achievement, I rise for the third time to contribute to the State of Constituency debates as Member of Parliament for Manchester Central, which has now become Jamaica's model constituency. In my short time as a political representative, my steadfast leadership and numerous accomplishments have garnered attention from constituents, Jamaicans at home and abroad, and even international observers, who often remark that my role as a Member of Parliament appears effortless. What is equally correct, Mr. Speaker, is that my journey has been a mix of joy and sadness. In sad times, I have been blessed with the unwavering support of church leaders, family, friends, parliamentary colleagues on both sides of the House, office staff, councillors in waiting, Adika, Richard, Shanil, and of course, together with my fierce army of constituents. To them I say thank you from the purest section of my heart.
Hear, hear. She's all of it.
All of it.
Much like my own journey, the constituency of Manchester Central has experienced her share of joy and sadness. For you see, Mr. Speaker, the 31 uninterrupted years of PNP leadership in our constituency is best described as the winter of despair. Thankfully, on September 3rd, 2020, the good people of Manchester Central ushered in the spring of hope when they elected me, their daughter, to represent our constituency. Mr. Speaker, this journey's success is attributed to my dedicated support team, my fixity of purpose, the vision of the Andrew Holness-led government, and collaborative relationships I have established with critical state agencies in the parish. Agencies such as the NWA, the NWC, the SDC, RADA, and NSWMA. These partnerships have led to remarkable achievements. Our springs of hope within Manchester Central over the last 3 years. Mr. Speaker, I stand here knowing it is impossible to detail all our record-breaking achievements in 15 minutes. Therefore, permit me to highlight only those accomplishments that we are most proud of. First, the Maypen to Williamsfield leg of the South Coast Highway, funded by Jamaican taxpayers at a cost of $200 million is now open to the public. This project has provided employment for 150 of my constituents, reduced travel time between Mandeville and Maypen to 15 minutes, while enhancing access to employment, residential and commercial opportunities, as well as easier access to critical services between Mandeville and Kingston. We extend our gratitude to the Most Honorable Prime Minister, Andrew Holness, for this significant capital investment. Another capital investment we appreciate is the Greater Mandeville Water Improvement Project, costing $3 billion Jamaican dollars. In its current phases 2 and 3, this project has already spent approximately $900 million Jamaican dollars to replace aged pipelines, install new pumps, new generators, and drill new wells. This has ensured the availability of potable water for hundreds of new customers and reliable supply for thousands of existing customers. We look forward to the completion, phase 4, in 2024. For this, we thank Prime Minister Holness and Minister Matthew Samuda. Mandeville Traffic Management System, an $80 million Jamaican dollars project, is now 95% complete and is projected to be completed this November. When commissioned into service, this system will resolve long-standing traffic congestions in our busy town of Mandeville. We extend our thanks to Minister Everald Warmington for this vital investment. In the realm of social services, Manchester Central introduced its first victim services child-friendly space, which provides a safe, calm, and comfortable environment in which children who are victims of crime interact with law enforcement officers and social service providers to receive psychosocial support. At the same time, Manchester Central's first state-of-the-art family court has been delivering hundreds of positive results. We express our gratitude to Minister Delroy Chuck for these invaluable investments. Healthcare facilities have also seen improvements. The Mandeville Health Center has been retrofitted and upgraded at a cost of $6.5 million, offering enhanced services and increased resilience to natural disasters. Meanwhile, the Broadleaf Community Health Center, renovated and expanded at a cost of $11 million Jamaican dollars, now caters to 5,000 constituents. The Mandeville Regional Hospital received over $100 million Jamaican dollars for new equipment. and the construction of a new state-of-the-art female ward at Manchester Infirmary, costing 48 million Jamaican dollars, is in full operation. We thank Ministers Christopher Tufton, Desmond McKenzie, and Floyd Green for these crucial investments. Our 87.17 million Jamaican dollars special education campus, Campus 2, an extension of Albion Primary School, is a game changer for students with special needs across the constituency, and plans are fully in motion to expand the educational facilities at Belfield High School, Belleair High School, Mayday High School, Mount St. Joseph High School, Manchester High School, and the Carteret College. We thank Minister Favour Williams for her visionary approach to improving access to education and training in our constituency. Through partnership with the leadership of Heart NSTA Trust, we have managed to engage the services of Heart's mobile unit to undertake recruitment, training and on-the-spot assessments in the Belfield, Royal Flat, Mandeville, and Knockpatrick divisions within our constituency. To date, more than 1,500 constituents have been impacted. Mr. Speaker, our constituency has witnessed an impressive array of housing solutions and impactful initiatives. Following Prime Minister Holness's presentation of 112 housing solutions, including 80 service lots and 32 bedroom units in Perth Estate, and his gift of 6 housing units to constituents through the Hope Social Housing Program, enabling recipients and their families to realize the Jamaican dream of home ownership, a dream that once seemed far-fetched. Another 3,406 service lots and units, 1,406 solutions in Perth Phase 2, and 2,000 units in Mount Nelson are being prepared and will soon become available. Additionally, 2 two-bedroom units will be gifted in November to 2 constituents who lost their homes to fire. 1 unit is being constructed through the Hope Social Housing Program, and the other through the Indigent Housing Program of the Ministry of Local Government and Community Development. We extend our gratitude to Prime Minister Holness and Minister Desmond McKenzie for their support. Moreover, through strategic use of allocations from the Constituency Development Fund, other allocation made available to members of Parliament via ministries and agencies, as well as contribution from the private sector, we have changed many lives and impacted numerous communities. Mr. Speaker, we have invested $28 million in supporting 4,608 students across all levels of the education system, with tuition grants, book grants, school uniforms, technological devices, and other school supplies. Additionally, we have provided educational assistance to 8 schools across the constituency. These endeavors reflect my commitment to the provision of access to education and training. We have tackled short-term water challenges with a $5 million Jamaican dollars investment in trucked water to homes, schools, and farms, and distributed 289 water tanks to constituents who are struggling to harvest water. Furthermore, we have boosted the local economy, offering employment to 528 constituents and providing 555 entrepreneurial grants to small business operators and farmers. Through our welfare programs, over 3,000 constituents have received compassionate funeral and medical grants. Recognizing the importance of sports, we launched the inaugural Rhodamoy Crawford Community Football League and supported other community leagues while providing equipment and gears to numerous community sports clubs. Our signature program, the Road Fix, has allocated over 170 million for road rehabilitation across the constituency, with more road improvement initiatives scheduled to begin as early as next week. In fact, road improvement will remain a dominant feature of my stewardship. Mr. Speaker, as the proud daughter of the late Donette Dolores Faulkner, the committed parliamentary representative of the wonderful people of Manchester Central, a dedicated member of this outstanding Andrew Holness-led administration, and a proud Jamaican woman, I want to leave with you the steadfast assurance that Manchester Central, under my leadership, will continue to blossom with countless springs of hope for generations to come. I thank you.
Mr. Speaker, I would like to thank the member from Central Manchester for a very concise, powerful presentation from her constituency. Thank you, member from Central Manchester. We now ask the member from South East St. Andrew for his presentation.
Member Robinson.
Mr. Speaker, can I ask your permission to speak from a seat other than mine?
So granted.
You can rest assured, any seat in here will remain mine, and it will be over there soon, so don't worry. Any seat. Mr. Speaker, let me thank you and commend you for being in the seat today. I stand before this honorable house in gratitude, first and foremost to the Almighty for continuing to bless me with health and strength to carry out my duties to my constituents and to my country. For the third time, I've been elected by the people of South East St. Andrew to continue to represent their interests. The weight of that responsibility is one that I bear with pride. I'm grateful to my constituents for the continued confidence reposed in me, and today I recommit to represent them and their interests with integrity, dignity, and accountability. I want to thank my family for their continued love and support, my constituency leadership team who are here represented today, and I thank them because in the last election, 2 weeks before, I tested positive for COVID and I had to remain at home. And it is the leadership team who ensured that I comfortably retain my seat. So I thank them for their continued support, dedication, and work on behalf of the constituency. And I thank the wider family of members of our party and the society. When I was first elected to the House on December 29, 2011, I made a commitment to serve my constituents on the principles of accountability, transparency, and participatory democracy. Every year, Mr. Speaker, since I've been first elected, I've done an annual constituency report, even though there's no requirement for us to do so. And while we have a discussion about job descriptions and the roles of members of parliament, there are some things that I have decided to do on my own because I believe they represent best practice in how we should represent our constituents. The reports that I do, which are on my website, detail the expenditures and the impact of all the projects from the Constituency Development Fund, as well as other projects and initiatives within the constituency. I've also consistently, Mr. Speaker, hosted the annual Constituency Development Fund consultations. In fact, in most cases, I host two, one in each of the two divisions. And I found that exercise particularly useful because many of our constituents don't understand how the CDF works. They don't understand the process to get resources from the CDF. And there are often misconceptions that we have money in our pockets that we walk around and can spend. So I find those consultations important in explaining how the CDF works. I'm proud to say, Mr. Speaker, in terms of accountability, transparency, and participatory democracy, I haven't just talked the talk on this issue. I have, in fact, walked the walk, and I will continue to do so. It is not my intention this afternoon to go through all the work in the constituency. As I said, they are detailed in my annual reports, which are available from 2011. All 12 of those reports are on my website, julianjrobinson.com. On becoming an MP, I reflected on how best I could serve my constituents, given the multiplicity of needs and the limited resources available through the Constituency Development Fund. Given that it's impossible for any MP to undertake any large-scale infrastructure project without direct central government support, I decided to use the majority of the resources available to me and my own energies in the areas of education and training. For the past 2 years, Mr. Speaker. I'm used to Madam, but Mr. Speaker. For the past 2 years, I partnered with the Heart Trust NTA under a European Union-funded Youth at Risk training program to deliver training and certification to constituents at Excelsior Community College and the International University of the Caribbean. And I will tell the member from Eastern St. Andrew that many of your constituents come over to EXCED and benefit from that program. The 8-week program consists of 2 weeks of... Yeah, man. Absolutely. And they will tell you, they come to my health fairs too. Yes, the ones from across the road. And even though the program is in my constituency, we serve everybody. We serve everybody. All the time. All Jamaicans. All Jamaicans. The 8-week program, Mr. Speaker, consists of 2 weeks of core skills, which includes conflict management, self-development, family life management, and career development, and then 6 weeks in a technical skill area. The participants are assessed, and then they are certified at the end of the program. This program is available to persons aged 17 to 29 who are either not at school or not in work, which is why it's called at-risk program. It is free of cost to the participants, and a daily stipend of $500 is provided to assist with transportation and lunch. I have said, I know the member from Eastern St. Andrew doesn't have responsibility for Heart, but I have said to Heart, one of the big issues with attendance is the difficulty in paying the stipend. Many of the participants don't have bank accounts or struggle to get them. Many of them have joint accounts which don't work. And I've been encouraging Heart to pilot using a mobile wallet where they can pay the persons on time. The challenge when you pay people 2-3 weeks late is that many of them drop out of the program and can't come. It's a good program. It's one that I have seen the benefit of for constituents who have participated, but there are just some administrative things that we can improve that can make it more efficient. At Excelsior, we have completed one cohort which ran from July to September of this year, and there were 4 skill areas. And I just go through them. Cosmetology, hair braiding and weaving. Electrical, conduit, trucking, cabling, and tray installation. In construction, masonry, and tiling. And I'll tell you, Mr. Speaker, we deliberately chose areas where we know the people, once they get trained, they can get work. I can tell you, if you are a skilled tradesman, you're not going to have any shortage of work once you know your trade, because there are enough people who are looking for that kind of work. In hair braiding, 60 people were enrolled. They are awaiting assessment. For the conduit, trucking, and cabling, which is important to the construction industry, 36 were enrolled, 30 have been certified. For masonry, 31 enrolled. They are awaiting their results. And for tiling, 30 as well, for a total of 157. The second cohort, which starts next week, October 30th, and runs to the end of December, will have the cosmetology, the electrical, and auto mechanics, and it's called braking system technicians. And we have a total of 100 persons who are enrolled in that program. We have also partnered with the International University of the Caribbean, and what I have done, I've chosen educational institutions within the constituency that have the experience of providing training, have the technical knowledge, the infrastructure, and the resources, so that it doesn't require my intervention in that regard. And so when Hart partners with them, they bring to the table those resources, and it makes the partnership a lot easier. We have also partnered with the International University of the Caribbean, and again, we are starting 2 training courses in October, next week, the 30th, where we're doing customer service. These are all level 2 courses, and housekeeping guest room attendants. Again, the housekeeping guest room attendant would be for persons to serve in the hospitality industry, and importantly in the fast-growing Airbnb industry, where many people require that kind of service as guests come in and out of their properties. Huh? Up to, prior to this, up to level 3, they didn't have to pay. In this program, there is no payment. We have 41. It was free before. For customer service, 41 persons are enrolled, and for the guest room attendant, 46 persons are enrolled, for a total of 87 persons at IUC. Again, very deliberately, I've looked at institutions geographically in the constituency to minimize the transport that people would have to take to get to one of those places. So if you are at Exed and you are on the Mountain View stretch and in Vineyard Town, it's very easy to get there. IUC is at the corner of Old Hope Road and Lady Musgrave. So people in Swallowfield can walk, and other people in the constituency can access it with one bus or one taxi. What I have found, I will tell you, is that we have people who come from as far as St. Catherine and Clarendon and enroll in the programs, and we don't turn them back. Once they matriculate and they meet the requirements, we allow them to participate. Denise and many others. Wherever they come from, we welcome them. We welcome them. Mr. Speaker, sorry. I want to turn to a project that I've spent a lot of time working on and developing, which is the Nannyville Field project, where we're going to be putting in a AstroTurf on that football field. And really the vision here is to transform that field into the premier sports and entertainment field in the eastern section of the corporate area. Right now for turf, if you want turf, you have the Barbican, you have Ballers, you have Duns on Red Hills Road, and you have the one up at Shortwood. There is none on the eastern side of the corporate area. What we have seen over the last 2 years, many schools, particularly the smaller prep schools, don't have grounds of their own. They need somewhere to play, they need somewhere to train. Smaller clubs also have challenges finding grounds. And if you have a grass field, unless you have access to well water, it is difficult to maintain. You can't maintain it with NWC water. It's just impossible. And every one of us as MPs will know how many requests we get from community-based organizations to support the fields. They're not sustainable. unless you can get well-based water. And that's the reason we chose the AstroTurf. So we have finally, after some delays with the procurement, we have a contract signed between TPD Co. and a contractor. And the project will kick off on November 6th. And Nannyville on Mountain View Avenue. The the location is important because we're not just doing a football field. We have secured private sector support to build shops around it. So somebody coming from the airport can stop, they can drink some, whether it is... I have looked at Barbican and I know what Barbican has done. So I have been there many, many times. Many times. No, man, we're going to have all the facilities are in there. But let me tell you why this is important, and the member from Eastern St. Andrew will appreciate this. We want it to be a facility. We're going to get lights. We're not there yet. We're at 10 o'clock, the youth them can go play them five-a-side football. Right? One of the fields will be reserved for the community. But we want to build peace and unity along Mountain View. Right? So it will act more than just as a football field. Mr. Speaker, I want to turn my attention to a number of issues affecting my constituents and others in the corporate area. And I will term these ensuring that the infrastructure keeps apace with the development. And the member from Eastern St. Andrew mentioned some of them. I want to start with traffic congestion. It currently takes over an hour to travel from one section of my constituency, Matilda's Corner, down Hope Road to Halfway Tree every evening. It's a journey which on a clear day would take about 10 minutes. This congestion, which is not unique to there, but is all over the corporate area, is having a negative impact on productivity and the quality of life of residents as they spend hours on the road commuting to and from school and from work. The congestion is directly related to government's policy on public transportation. The de-investment in the JUTC has seen this entity operating at about 40% of its capacity. At the same time, the government has doubled the number of licenses issued to public passenger vehicles. What this means is that persons have to wait hours at a bus stop for a JUTC bus. Still, it has improved, but it is still problematic. It has improved, but it is still problematic because you are still, all right, if you want to have a frank discussion, you're supposed to be turning out 400 and something buses, you're at about 180 or 90. So what it means is that somebody goes to a bus stop and has to wait hours. They can't wait, so they have to jump in a taxi because they have to get to school or they have to go to work. The number of taxis that are on the road cause that congestion. The competition caused the indiscipline, right? So yes, I'm not saying new buses don't come, but the problem is still there. It is a reality. All right? Just give me back the 5 minutes, you know. Mr. Speaker, give me back the 5 minutes. Mr. Speaker, time has come where we must invest properly in the JUTC so that we can put more buses on the road because when the persons who have to use the private taxis pay more than when they go in the JUTC. But, Mr. Speaker, we also have to think outside of the box in relation to how we're going to deal with public transportation. I'm recommending that the government commissions a study to determine the feasibility of installing light rail in the Kingston metropolitan area as a way of reducing the traffic congestion and improving public transportation. Right? And you would have to assess the routes, whether it is from Halfway Tree to Papine, whether it's Constant Spring to Halfway Tree, the most traffic routes, and determine the feasibility of it. What we are seeing right now is that the amount of cars that are coming onto the road on a weekly basis, we are always going to have this congestion. It can be whether it's monorail or you use the existing roadway infrastructure. But what I want is do the feasibility to see whether it is something that can be done. Right? Madam Speaker. I want to give you an example. I want to give you an example of the impact that development has on traffic. So when you take a 3/4 acre single family home, which has probably 2 cars, and you convert that to a 10-story, 50-unit apartment, you're moving from 2 cars to about 75 cars there, right? It is the same existing infrastructure and roadway that we have. And I can give you examples. You just need to drive in your constituency, Eastern St. Andrew and mine, and you see those developments taking place every single day. And that is why I'm saying let's look at light rail, because the amount of new cars that are coming on the road, we are going to have this congestion problem multiplying in the years to come. And I am not clear, Mr. Speaker, if we are thinking down the road about how we are going to manage these issues, because it has a direct impact on labor productivity and it has a direct impact on the quality of life of persons. I want to turn now to water infrastructure, and I want to use the same example of where you convert a 3/4 acre single-family home into a 10-story, 50-unit apartment. And that single-family home, let's say it had 5 or 6 persons, and you move it to 50 units, which may have an average of 100 persons. You're moving from 5 to 100 with the water infrastructure that is currently in place. How will we ensure that the water provision keeps apace with this growth and development that is taking place? And I would tell you, Mr. Speaker, as we speak, there are sections of my constituency that are still under the water restrictions, which have been in place for 8 months. Still, even though Hermitage is full, Mona is at 90%, and I figure after today and tomorrow, Mona will probably go to 100%. But you have people under the water restriction where the water turn off at 2 o'clock every evening. Yes, even now, in parts of New Kingston, parts of Lower Vineyard Town, I'm calling on the NWC, give the people a break now. Given the increased rainfall, I mean the inconvenience people have to face. We have a dengue outbreak, and every day water lock off at 2 o'clock with the increased rainfall. They need a break. So I'm calling on the NWC to give the people a break. But beyond that, and while I recognize that there is some new capacity being installed, I participated with Minister Samuda in a well thing on Maresca Road, but the level of development that is taking place, the pace of that development, the water supply that we have has to improve and has to be increased exponentially to meet that demand. Mr. Speaker, I want to turn to the issue of garbage collection. It is simply unacceptable and inexcusable that residents in my constituency have to wait between 3 to 4 weeks to get their garbage collected. 3 to 4 weeks. And I'm talking about since we have gotten the 50 new trucks. I will say to the credit of the staff at Solid Waste, when you call, when there's an issue, they are generally responsive. But, Mr. Speaker, it can't be the role of an MP every single week to be calling somebody at Solid Waste to say, send a truck in a community when garbage pile up for 3 and 4 weeks. It can't be. It's wrong. I don't know what the issue is. I must tell you. I assumed once the trucks came that the problem would have been solved. But I'm talking about up to recent, up to a week or 2 ago, we're getting these complaints. And for some reason, there's a challenge dealing with it. I want to highlight a specific garbage collection issue in my constituency along the Old Hope Road belt, starting from Chambers Lane, which really is in the Eastern St. Andrew, but all along Swallowfield. NSWMA sends out a truck every day, and the residents bring out their garbage onto the road, by the side of the road. The difficulty with it is that when they bring out their garbage and people see garbage put down, everybody decides to pile up and add to it. So you have construction waste, you have old fridge, you have old stove. So at any given day, if you drive along the stretch from the back of Campion College, opposite Chambers Lane, down where Swallowfield is, you will always see garbage, even though a truck comes every single day. That arrangement has to change. it is unsightly, but it's also unhygienic that you have this garbage. The challenge is that NSWMA does this, the bigger trucks can't go into the lanes. So NSWMA will have to put in the smaller units to go into the lanes to pick up the garbage and take the garbage out of there. You can't use skips. We have tried skips. When you use skips, what happens? Everybody from all over the place does decide they're going to dump in the skip. All dog, all cow, everything gets thrown in the skip, and then somebody lights the skip afire, and the bottom of the skip burns out. So skips don't work. They don't work. And the only effective way is if we have good garbage collection. When you don't have garbage collection, two things happen. People throw the garbage in the gully, and it ends up in the Kingston Harbor, and the work that is being done by Grace Kennedy and other people to clear up the harbor just gets multiplied. Or they burn it, which is bad for the environment. But you can't blame people, because if your garbage is there for 3 or 4 weeks, what are you going to do? And that is a reality that people have been facing. We have to get garbage collection right. It is not beyond the capacity of the NSWMA and the Ministry of Local Government to fix this issue. But I also want to recommend, Mr. Speaker, that we embark on an aggressive campaign around composting. I'll tell you my own personal example. I got this 50-gallon drum. I bore some hole in the side and the bottom of it, and all my fruits, vegetables, ground provisions, I started to compost. I would say in the last 2 to 3 years, I've reduced what I put out for collection between about a half to a third. Composting works, but people are not culturally attuned to composting, or they don't know how to compost. And given the challenges we have with solid waste, whether it is the ministry or NSWA, must embark on a program of encouraging more composting. There are many of the companies, whether they be industrial chemicals or otherwise, who have drums that they no longer use. They can get the drums, go into the communities, have some public training, explain to people how to compost, because it's not something naturally people know how to do, in a way which is hygienic, and the soil that you can use to put on your plants and your flowers, etc. But sustainably going forward, we have to reduce the amount of garbage that is put out for the garbage trucks to collect. And composting is one of the best ways to do that. So I want to see an aggressive campaign from the NSWMA around composting. I want to turn my attention to the issue of pensioners and dealing with life certificates. The Accountant General's Department recently located from the Ministry of Finance to Dominica Drive in New Kingston. Finding somewhere to park in New Kingston has always been difficult, and it will become even more challenging as pensioners have to drop off their life certificates. I'm recommending that a drop-off system be implemented to facilitate pensioners remaining in their cars, dropping off their life certificate, getting their receipt without coming out of the vehicle. Many times it's a relative, it's children who do it on their behalf. But to find parking within New Kingston is so difficult that it is going to be difficult for those persons to do so. And I believe that can be done without much problems. Mr. Speaker, I now want to turn to an area of frustration. Late last year, the Prime Minister announced to great fanfare, much desk banging over there, that each member of Parliament would receive $40 million for road works within their constituency. Once an announcement is made, everyone in your constituency say, what about my road? Why my road can't fix? And yes, Miss Road are fixed. Them all cite you too and say, how come you do it and me can't do it? Yeah, man, them say that. No, I say, Mr. Speaker, when the project was announced, the week after, I identified my 4 roads. I called NWA, they went and they did the estimates, right? After doing the estimates and agreeing, they then ask you for the list of the contractors. I supply that. We have 2 minutes, we're good. After that, I did that. 10 months later, I can't get the $40 million to fix the roads. And it's not me one, I know that, but it can't go so. It cannot work that way. Because when these announcements are made, people think we have the money and we don't want to work. We must find a better way to get things done. Similarly, Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister 2 or 3 weeks ago announced a 2 million dengue cleanup. We in the middle of dengue, mosquito abide people. We have an epidemic which the Minister said we have, and we can't get the money. We were promised some letters outlining. You have an outbreak, right? But the point I'm making is, it can't take so long for basic things to be done. And it's not unique to me. It affects all of us. But when our constituents hear the announcements, they assume that money is there. And when they don't see the action, them things say, we blame us. It's we get the blame. We have to do better. So in closing, Mr. Speaker, I want to close where I started, with gratitude. While there's much left to be done, I'm grateful for the opportunity to share some of what we have done and to highlight the issues affecting my constituency. I thank all those present for their attention, and with humility, I invite those of you to visit my website, which has all the reports over the last 11 years in terms of what I have done. And I would also say that as I started when I got elected on December 29, 2011, I will continue to lead with accountability, transparency, and a commitment to participatory democracy in everything that I do. Thank you very much.
I want to thank the member from Southeast. Yes, I want to thank the member from Southeast St. Andrew for his presentation, Mr. Speaker. And he has highlighted some very important points. I mean, the 40 million affects all of us. I can tell you, you know, the bureaucracy is a problem just to get things out. And so it's not affecting only you, member, but virtually everyone. Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, I now ask that the debate be suspended. I now ask that the constituency debate be suspended.
The question is that the state of the constituency debate be suspended. Those in favor? Those against? Ayes have it.
Mr. Speaker, I now ask that you return to the agenda.
Statement by ministers.
The member from West Central, Minister Tufton, has a statement. Mr. Speaker.
Member Tufton.
The mic needs to, okay. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have a short but important statement. Mr. Speaker, I rise to update the members of this Honorable House on yet another important development in public health in Jamaica, which is the expansion of coverage for non-communicable diseases through the National Health Fund, an agency of the Ministry of Health and Wellness. Mr. Speaker, we continue to advance public health in Jamaica. We are adding 5 conditions to the pool of those currently provided for under the individual benefits program of the NHF. The NHF card would therefore now see an increase in the subsidy for the treatment of 5 additional illness categories. This is the most significant increase. We now have 17 categories. We're adding 5. The 5, Mr. Speaker, are colorectal cancer, lung cancer, multiple myeloma, Parkinson's disease, and thyroid disease. This, Mr. Speaker, colleagues, represents a 450 million Jamaican dollar increase in subsidies, and we expect some 47,000 beneficiaries, Jamaicans, to benefit from this addition. I want to pause here, Mr. Speaker, to specifically recognize the team at the National Health Fund for their continued commitment to public health in Jamaica. It is the NHF's mandate to provide funding for specified healthcare benefits, health promotion, health projects, and pharmacy services in a sustainable, efficient, and customer-centric environment. And the truth is, and we have seen this in the manifestation of a number of awards that they have been recognized for, that the NHF, the team, has been successfully operating in accordance with that mandate. My commendations and thanks to the management and staff of the Ministry of Health and Wellness, as also the parent entity of this National Health Fund. Mr. Speaker, the National Health Fund Individual Benefits Program provides subsidies for 3 main categories of benefits for enrolled Jamaican residents: medication to treat and manage 17 chronic diseases, now moving from 17 to 22 with the 5 additional, and that became effective yesterday, Mr. Speaker. Medical supplies and devices for diabetes and asthma, and 3 diagnostic tests. The subsidies are accessed using the NHF card and through the Jamaica Drug for the Elderly program. Some 350,000 Jamaicans actively rely upon this program for care, and we anticipate that this number will increase with the addition of the 5 conditions. To keep pace with the emergent needs of the population, the NHF routinely conducts a review, Mr. Speaker, of the benefits program by way of feedback from beneficiaries and stakeholders in relation to their concerns, as well as requests via the individual benefits request form. It is on the basis of this feedback that the 5 new illness categories have been added to the program, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, it is a positive development in that those Jamaicans who would be unfortunate to suffer from these conditions now have support through the NHF card, but it's also an indication that Jamaica and the population has a sick profile which is increasing and poses a threat to a fairly large number of our population. And a lot of these illnesses, Mr. Speaker, are lifestyle-related illnesses, which means more cure as opposed to prevention. And it is a commentary that requires a response, which we have tried to embark on through programs like Know Your Numbers and other primary care programs. But, Mr. Speaker, it is a fact that we have a non-communicable disease or lifestyle disease challenge. 1 in 3 Jamaicans are hypertensive, 1 in 8 diabetic, 4 of 10 are unaware of these conditions. The Know Your Numbers program, which was launched in Falmouth recently, the first execution, Mr. Speaker, just to give an indication of the extent of the challenge, we did over 1,600 tests involving 450 Jamaicans. 99 of the 450 Jamaicans who did a combined number of 1,600 tests had to be recommended to the doctor for follow-up. That's almost 25% of those who were screened. That is a demonstration of the extent of the challenge we face. It means persons walking around with elevated blood pressure, blood sugar, diabetes, and being unaware, which justifies the program to encourage screening, but also is evidence of why we have to adjust our benefits program to address some of the challenges in the society, and why prevention is always going to be cheaper than cure. When we analyze deaths, for example, in 2020, we found that 59%, or over 12,700 Jamaicans died early. That is before their 75th birthday. I think I've said that before in this house, but repeat again for emphasis. And these deaths caused over 144 life years to be lost, a 30% increase in potential life years over a decade when compared to a decade ago. So, Mr. Speaker, it is a challenge. Now, you will notice that the categories that we have added involves cancer, a particular sickness profile. And this is so because it's a growing concern in Jamaica. the rate of increase of cancers. It's actually the fastest rate of growth, even though cardiovascular disease represents the largest cause of deaths in the country. Cancer is the second leading cause of death among the NCD, and is among the NCDs that are plague the population, basically. Data from the 2020 Global Cancer Observatory lists colorectal, otherwise called colon cancer, lung cancer, and multiple myeloma among the top 10 cancers in the country. As a third leading cancer among the population, colon cancer affects some 11% of the population, with more than 700 new cases recorded in 2020. More than 500 people, or just over 7.5% of Jamaicans, were diagnosed with lung cancer in 2020, and the condition is especially common among men. Multiple myeloma, a type of bone marrow cancer, recorded a 2.9% mortality rate and resulted in more than 100 deaths in 2020 with the data that we have. These conditions often have a debilitating impact, Mr. Speaker, on the quality of life of those diagnosed, taking a toll not only on their physical and emotional wellness, but also on their finances, on their families, on communities, and by extension, based on the cost to treat on the country. And this, therefore, has to be noted in terms of the response that we take. We must therefore act, Mr. Speaker, in the public health interest, championing prevention to the extent that this is possible, but also making provisions for persons once diagnosed to access high-quality care in order to safeguard the possible health outcomes. The addition of the 5 conditions will see some 10 new active pharmaceutical ingredients become available to the NHF program for the treatment of the disease or these particular causes. The new benefits, Mr. Speaker, as I said earlier, took yesterday, and therefore persons can now access that service. Finally, Mr. Speaker, I just want to comment quickly on our cancer registry. I am pleased to inform this Honorable House that Jamaica will be the first country in the Caribbean and the second in the world to use the Health Information Management Platform, District Health Information Software version 2, or DS2, to enable population worldwide reporting on cancer burden by the National Cancer Registry of Jamaica. The use of this groundbreaking software is made possible through the award of a grant from Bloomberg Philanthropies Data for Health Initiatives Global Grants Program for the project entitled Using DS2 to Strengthen Cancer Registration Data Systems in Low-Resource Countries from Rwanda to Jamaica, submitted by the Ministry in collaboration with the Caribbean Public Health Agency. That agreement was officially signed yesterday, Mr. Speaker, during a consultation exercise that is now taking place among about 15 Caribbean countries around Caribbean moves at the Jamaica Pegasus Hotel. The project is to improve cancer control by operationalizing a data collection and reporting system that will improve the availability of national cancer data, which can be used by the ministry to guide cancer prevention and control strategies locally. This will involve the installation, customization, and use of an oncology module using the Health Information Management Platform District Health Information System version 2 to enable the population-wide reporting on cancer burden by the National Cancer Registry. In essence, Mr. Speaker, colleagues, we are improving the digitization process or infrastructure to capture data, in this instance, on cancer diagnosed throughout the country in order to use that data for better analytics, to understand the problem, to determine where it may be happening more than other places, to determine a response, to engage in prevention methods to the extent that we can. And this will augur well for the fight against this very terrible disease that afflicts us, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we have to do and continue to redouble our efforts to tackle the NCD scourge in our population. This is but one additional effort, now led by the NHF in terms of the 5 categories that will be added for support, but also the cancer registry that will give us an overarching surveillance that is necessary to tackle the particular challenge that we face. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, you know, the NHF is one of those success stories that has cut across successive administrations. Started by the former Member of Parliament for Central Manchester, John Juno, and we have seen good management across administrations. We support the addition of these 5 new conditions to the NHF, primarily because the cost of treating these conditions is prohibitive. It often leaves families in penury when they are finished with these conditions and destitute. And certainly for persons who don't have insurance, I hate to say it, but when they can't get the treatment, they die. It is just a sad reality. So we welcome this, and we believe it is a good addition. I know my colleague from Central Manchester, from Central St. Mary, Central St. Mary, the opposition spokesman on health, had raised the issue of thyroid diseases being added to the list of beneficiaries, and I'm happy that you have acted on that recommendation and it is included here. I noticed the cost. I just wanted for you to give an assurance that with the increased cost, it won't become a burden on NHF and that NHF has the resources to sustain this type of intervention over the medium to long term.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Minister, I enjoin myself to the comments made by the acting leader of opposition business today. But just as I did the last time around, the truth is that all of us, I believe, would have requests coming to us from constituents about assistance in terms of fees, right, for medication as well as for surgeries and so on. And we know just how difficult that is. It still remains, Minister, a difficult thing in terms of what to do. I know we talk about compassionate grants and so on, but there seems not to be a clear pathway to say to us or to anyone that if this is their situation and they are unable to, then what recourses do they have? So I wanted to ask you just to kind of help Jamaica understand that as you speak on that. But more specifically to this, Minister, we are in Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And even the last time when we added the PSA test for free, again I come back and ask, is there any window of opportunity for women to be able to get these tests done for breast cancer in particular at a reduced rate? And I know that I think it's the Heart Foundation that does some of the testing, the Cancer Society, but they are really pressed in terms of the numbers. And so when persons are trying to do it, it's difficult. If you have a concern, if you have a doubt, if you want to check, it is hard to ask persons to really wait on that long line to do that. And it is, I believe, one of those that we should be concerned about. I don't know if how they do it is means tested. That's just an additional question. But I really am making a plug, especially in this month, for our women who would want to be tested but just simply can't afford. Apart from the fear that they have, just simply can't afford to do it.
Thank you very much to the members for the comments and the endorsement of the announcement. The issue of the sustainability of the expenditure is one that would have gone into the determination as to the decision. So yes, I've had extensive discussions with the NHF, the management, and they do modeling to determine the cost, how that cost will increase over time. The data, historical data, gives a pattern of those who may need the support, and as a consequence, the estimates that have been put forward, the 450 million. So yes, it will be sustained. That is not to say we must not take preventative action. And that's a big part of the play, which is why I said the Know Your Numbers is very important, and other such activities for screening. Member, on the issue of those who need help, and there's a cost associated with that. Now, the government does provide significant support. As you know, the public health system is free to the extent that additional services are required. Now, you shouldn't frown on it, you know. Don't frown on it. The data, the statistics, I know we complain about the issues that go bad. We never mention the things that go well. On a given year, nearly 3 million transactions takes place between hospitals and health centers. About 1.6 million in health centers, 1.4 in hospitals. You rarely hear about those people who go and get through and go home. For inpatient care, it's almost 200,000. Maybe 2% are dispatched to the morgue, unfortunately. The rest of them go home. But it's not to say we are perfect. We have challenges. Now, where persons have difficulties and cannot afford, they may need a special case or a machine breaks down, we have programs. The Compassionate Care Program has spent to date, this financial year, close to 300 million. And it is coming from about 100 million 5 years ago. And whenever we run out, we replenish. There's a committee, there's a form on the website of the ministry. You fill that out, you submit it, and you can, as citizens, you say I should appeal to the country, go through your office, your member of parliament. That's normally what happens when people have difficulties. And you go online, you download the form, you fill out the form, you submit it. And a number of persons do that. Beyond that, though, we have special windows that are available for particular conditions, whether through the NHF or through the University Hospital of the West Indies. It depends on the case. And so, member, I would say just increase your advocacy, and I'm sure your constituents will get the attention they deserve. We have no difficulty with that. On the issue of breast cancer, just for a minute say that it is a big issue. And I want to commend the member who distributed this symbolic and very beautiful representation of breast cancer awareness. I've been participating in a number of activities this month. About 1,200 women are diagnosed, primarily, because men can have too, diagnosed with breast cancer each year, based on the data I have seen. Up to about 500 die each year from breast cancer, in Jamaica that is, and it represents the leading cause of cancer-related deaths in women. A big part of the problem is late detection, because most cancers can be controlled, not a clinician, but it's the advice I have, if you detect it early. The problem is the fear of screening because of the fear of being told that you are afflicted. And we need to change that culture. We need to get persons to recognize that early screening may actually be the solution to longer life and quality of life. Now, on breast cancer, we have made some progress around screening. Last week, or week before, I think, I unveiled a mammogram machine at Cornwall Regional, very new machine. We have one to unveil shortly at Kingston Public Hospital, another new machine. UHWI has a machine. And of course, as you said, the Cancer Society, which provides a subsidized rate. Ideally, we should have a machine in every region. So we need to put machines in the other regions and the main hospitals. So it's not perfect, but it's improving. And I think we also need to have a mobile machine that can go into communities, because while people are fearful, we need to make it easy for them to have it. But we do have at least 3 machines now in the public system, and 1 in the case of the Cancer Society, and I'm sure there are private entities that have also. But that's not the only method of screening. The doctors, we need to encourage women for self-testing, and for their doctors to help them to do some initial screening. And so public education is a big part of that approach. So yes, we are making progress, but more needs to be done, and I think it's on all of us to get that done. Thank you very much.
Announcement. Bills brought forward from the Senate, petitions, papers, report from committees, notice of motion given orally, questions and answers to questions, motion that may be made at the commencement of public business required notice, motions relating to sitting of the House, motion for leave to introduce bills, presentation of bills without leave of the House first obtained. Public business.
Mr. Speaker, we have had a good afternoon. It is not proposed to do any further business, so I ask that the Parliament be adjourned until Tuesday, October the 31st at 2 p.m.
The question is that the House do adjourn for Tuesday, October 31st, 2023 at 2 p.m. Those in favor?
Aye.
Those against? This honorable House now stands adjourned.